The creative juices are flowing at LHWH. We're here to talk about the Silver Reed Gallery, coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at LHWH Advertising and PR in Myrtle Beach. We're focused on the Silver Reed Art Gallery, which launched here at the agency last April. And we're visiting with Al Bunal, one of the graphic artists here at the agency and an artist in the gallery. Good morning, Al. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Incredible opportunity this week to highlight some of the artists in the gallery, to highlight the gallery itself, to highlight some of the partners and what's happening at LHWH in general. And thought it'd be great to get you in this morning to highlight some of your own work.
Well, it's a great opportunity, and I'm glad we can show some of the things that we have.
Very definitely. Al, real quick about yourself. Are you originally from the area?
I'm not. I'm a transplant. I was born and raised in upstate New York. Enlisted in the military from there, and spent 20 years in the Air Force.
20 years in the Air Force?
20 years.
Right. What was that like?
Well, it's a different way of life. It's a former career. I moved on to a second career from then. Spent some time overseas. Was in the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. And after my retirement, figured to move on to another area.
Did you go to school before the military experience or after?
Well, all through my career I was taking classes, and it's encouraged to stay in some type of college. And after my retirement, my wife, who has been a big influence on my life, recommended going back to school. And I did that after the retirement and ended up at East Carolina University, where I got my bachelor's degree in communication arts.
In communication arts? Golly, I've never even heard of that degree. That's interesting.
Well, it's a combination of both graphic design, print design. They've worked in photography, environmental design. It's a very well-rounded career.
And you have family here in the area now?
I do. We've been coming down here since 1989. My in-laws moved down here, and we've enjoyed the area so much that we ended up moving down here too.
That's great. How long have you worked with LHWH?
I've been here for just about 3.5 years. Right out of school, they hired me, and I've been working in production ever since, and I love it.
That's fantastic. What are your responsibilities, you say, in production? What does that mean exactly?
Well, the production side is actually taking a piece of work that the designers have worked out with the clients. And after the clients have worked to a certain approval of the piece, whether it be print or radio or interactive or whichever it is, at a certain point it comes over to the production side. Most times. Some of the artists do their own production before it goes to the print area. And myself and Terry Johnson back there, we end up handling a lot of these pieces. It may be taking a piece that is done in low resolution so the client can make the approval portion of it. And it comes to us, and we make it high res and make it available for the print or for wherever it's going to be going to.
That's great. Al, did you always have an interest in art? Did you have an interest in art as a child, even prior to your military experience?
I did. All of my brothers and sisters are somewhat artistic in some way. And I had always been interested in drawing. And it was one of those things that I grew up, my parents encouraged it, and we did silly things as children. And I took some art classes in high school. But it worked out to where I didn't follow through on that. My life took a different direction and ended up being in the military. And I always found an interest in art, always. And while in the military, when the computer boom started, I was working in a staff position and had the opportunity to work with computers, and I found that I had a niche working with my art and adopting that into computer systems. And it slowly evolved to this.
And I know you said earlier that your wife had a dramatic impact and obviously
Mm-hmm.
encouraged you to go back to school. Did she encourage you to go to college to study art as a potential career?
Her philosophy is, if you don't do what you like, why are you doing it?
Huh.
And we sat down and we talked about things, different ways to go for career-wise, and art kept popping up. And it's just evolved to where I am today.
Yeah. Al, what's that like being in college after having had a career, having had 20 years in the Air Force? What was that like? Surely your maturity level will be considerably different than assume many of your classmates. There's probably other folks who come back in for their second professions.
Right.
What's that like being in college with 18-year-olds when you're in your 30s?
Well, it's very humbling at some point.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these youngsters coming in, especially in the competitive degree fields like that, are very talented. They are extremely talented.
Right.
And I found working through the college system that it's almost like working here. You end up feeding off of other people just as talented or maybe more talented, obviously.
Yes.
And you end up feeding off of each other, and the classes are designed so you actually work towards that. You look at other people's work and you understand where you are and where they're going and different ideas. And obviously people with different backgrounds go in different directions with things.
Mm-hmm.
And through school I found that I had a knack for the production side of it because I was more of a mechanic than anything. And it was fun to have some of the classmates coming to me, well, what do you think about this? How can we get this produced? You know, what do you think the best way to handle this is? And it was fun. It was almost being a lesser professor than anybody else had there.
Right. Golly, that must have been great.
It was a fun time.
Really feeding off of each other, but at the same time knowing that oftentimes folks would turn to you more like a mentor. That must have been great. What do you have a favorite medium, Al?
I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to the arts. In school, I've done photography, which I have one behind me. I've done sculpture to painting to print work to ceramics, but my favorite has got to be the woodworking, and I've concentrated more into the woodworking side these days than anything else. And I found that a lot of my pieces that I do these days are very functional. I enjoy doing functional pieces and well-designed pieces of wood.
Is there any one subject that you like best?
Within the woodworking side?
Within the woodworking side?
No. I've found that it's been mostly pieces that I find are useful. For instance, my lamp.
Right.
And again, my wife was looking for a lamp for the living room, and I says, well, let's design something that's going to fit with the living room, and I'll make it. And it's evolved from one lamp to another, or whether it's a piece of furniture that she's going to need, like one of my next projects are going to be an end table and a coffee table. You know, so it just evolves from one piece to another. And woodworking, again, working with some of these talented artists here, we get talking about a lot of different things, and we feed off of what he knows to what I know, and how can we combine it? And it's almost like a college environment because you have these talented people here.
Can you give the viewers a sense of some of the pieces you've displayed in the Silver Reed Gallery? Obviously, this week's focused on the gallery. This is so interesting hearing about, for instance, being in school and having that experience. But can you talk about some of the pieces you've displayed in your month of showing, and are you coming back for more?
Oh yeah. I think what's going to happen with the gallery is we're going to open up to as many people as we can, and there'll be times when we can't fill the gallery, and I'm sure we'll have more people repeat within the gallery and show different pieces. Right. A lot of the pieces that I showed were print pieces. Let's see, I had 3 pieces of charcoal that I did, and they were all figurative. The other side I had some photography, and some unusual photography, which is non-metallic, which is actually taking photographs and building your own four-color photographs out of black and white film.
Wow.
Which is very interesting.
And the photo behind us was one of the pieces you displayed in the gallery.
That's correct.
And I think that had some pretty competitive bidding. Thank you so much from the American Art Association for donating that to the Hardball last weekend. That really, it was bid on pretty competitively. I won't tell the viewers how much it got, but it was a very competitive bidding. So thank you again, Al.
I'm happy to donate. It's a great association. It's a great charity.
Yes. Were you able to get some feedback? We've only got a couple of minutes. Were you able to get some feedback from your colleagues within the agency as well as within the creative side of the agency as to your displays in the gallery?
Yes. Yeah. It's always encouraging. All the feedback that you hear is usually encouragement, constructive criticism, how they like this. Maybe they would have done it differently. Where you highlight your actual strengths. And I also, along with the print pieces that I showed, I did bring in a small wooden Aztec drum that I made of wood. There was another piece that was there. It was made of metal. It was to show movement and display how you can actually take a piece of movement within nature and turn it into a piece of metal. So there was a number of pieces that were shown, and I got a lot of good feedback from everybody.
I'm sure. Do you happen to work with fellow artists in the back area on a pretty regular basis?
Very much. We are, a lot of times we are arm in arm in what we do. One of the great things that LHWH does for the artists is allow them to take creative lunches. This is where the artists actually go someplace as a group and do one activity or another, and there are creative challenges within that lunchtime. And it gets quite competitive. And we have done things from going to the bowling alley and competing there, or going to Brook Green Gardens and having an outing down there. It's very, very much, what's the word I'm looking for?
Just that ability to be able to display, a very cathartic problem.
It's supported. The owners of this agency are well into the arts, and they well support the arts, and they know that they have great artists here that thrive on that.
Can you say what you like best about the work you do here at LHWH, Al?
Best thing I like is that it changes constantly. I could be doing some print pieces for one of our clients and turn around and have to do an interactive CD, and it goes from one to the other. It could be print for a magazine, or to the newspaper, or an interactive CD for one of our hospital clients that is going to be looking to go out and recruit people for their hospital. So it's quite interesting, and every day you come to work, what's going to happen today? How different is it going to be today?
That's the question Al Bunal asks when he comes to work. What's going to happen today? A man who doesn't change professions constantly, 20 years in the Air Force, a stint at East Carolina University, and now 3.5 years at LHWH. What's going to happen today? Al, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you.
Definitely.
Glad to be here.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're at LHWH Advertising and PR in Myrtle Beach. We're focused on the Silver Reed Art Gallery, which launched successfully here at the agency last April. And we're visiting with Lei Gainer, the Public Relations Director here at the agency. Good morning, Lee. Thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Greg. Very happy to be with you.
Incredible opportunity all week to highlight the Silver Reed Art Gallery, to highlight some of the agency partners, the graphic artists, obviously account executives, and to be able to highlight the public relations director is a pretty big deal. So thanks so much for giving us some time.
Well, thank you.
Can we talk real quick about yourself? Were you originally from the area?
Well, actually, I grew up in Baltimore, and then I lived in Washington for close to 20 years before relocating down here to the Myrtle Beach area.
Okay. Where did you attend school?
I went to a small school in western Maryland. If you noticed in the Weather Channel recently where they just had 44 inches of snow, that's where I went, Frostburg, aptly named Frostburg State College.
Frostburg. Oh, my God. Did you major in public relations while you were in college?
No, I didn't. They didn't offer a public relations major, but I majored in something that my father quipped when I graduated. Really prepared me for life. 18th century English literature with a minor in Western philosophy.
Oh my golly!
I learned everything about public relations on the street, basically.
Well, there must have been something there that enabled you to open some doors in public relations. I guess you never know what between ages 18 to 22 or so what major will turn into. That's wonderful.
And I did have a career goal of becoming a reporter, which was really a launching pad into public relations eventually.
Was that your first job after graduation, going into reporting?
Yes. I was a reporter. I worked initially for the Washington Star, which is no longer around, and then worked for Commerce Clearinghouse, which is a legal publisher out of Chicago that publishes a lot of tax and labor law publications. Right. And worked my way up to becoming the editor of the Labor Law Guide.
Did you go straight from the Labor Law Guide into public relations?
No, actually, I was in editing and reporting, and then I went to work for an association that represented local governments across the United States and editing their newsletter, and from there moved into lobbying.
Wow. Can you give the viewers a little bit of what does lobbying mean?
Well, lobbying is basically an education process for people on the Hill. You really get you strategically define what your position is and target the legislation that you want to influence. And then your responsibility as a lobbyist is communicating that message to the legislators in a succinct and informative way.
Is there anyone in particular that would use a lobbyist, or do multiple groups use lobbyists?
Just about everybody uses lobbyists. Actually, I always felt like associations using lobbyists was almost the purest form of democracy because they were representing groups of people. Local governments are what I represented, and then later Fortune 500 companies. So just about anyone who wants to get their message across to Congress can use a lobbyist.
Much like your father joking about that degree from college and you learning much of your PR knowledge on the street, could someone study to become a lobbyist? Could they go to college for that, or is that something they'd really learn, quote, on the street?
Well, I think they could go to college to learn about public administration and learn how the Congress works. But I think becoming a lobbyist is something you really do need to learn in the halls of Congress and in the federal buildings. Because so much of it is unwritten and unspoken, and it's built mostly on relationships.
What attributes would you need to have to be successful at it? The ability to be a good relationship builder, or?
I think you need to be a good relationship builder. You need to be articulate. You need to be a good writer because you need to communicate much of what you do in writing. You need to have a lot of patience. I worked on one piece of legislation for 8 years. Trying to get it through eventually. So.
Wow. That's amazing. Can you give the viewers a sense of some of the clients you may have represented, Lee, and then possibly talk about how you moved from lobbying into literature?
Well, in lobbying, I represented local governments throughout the country, worked with everyone from large cities like New Orleans to small jurisdictions. When I moved over into employment and training, I worked with Fortune 500 companies, and we were working on employment tax credits. So I worked with people from Ford Motor Company and Merck Pharmaceuticals and folks like that at the vice president and presidential level.
How long had you worked in D.C. before deciding to move on?
18 years.
18?
And I was ready to experience a different lifestyle. I'm a golfaholic, so I had come down to Myrtle Beach quite a bit to play golf and vacation. and was fortunate enough to find the agency, and they had a specialty in golf, and that was very attractive to me.
So you've been down here how long?
13 years now.
Okay, great. Yeah. And you started at LHWH right after arriving?
Yes, yes. And I keep telling them that they're going to have to carry me out because it's really the longest I've ever been at any one place. But it's such a creative organization, and the people are so caring that they're going to have to carry me out of here, basically.
I'm sure. Well, there are a lot of folks around in the facility, but I'm sure no one's going to be carrying you out. I'm sure no one's going to be doing that. How has the public relations service grown since your talents were added to the house here at LHWH?
Okay. Well, actually, when I started here, I was the Public Relations Division. Mm-hmm. Now we have 5 people on staff with all kinds of skills. And we specialize in media relations, and we work not only with golf, but with travel and tourism, with real estate. We have some medical clients. We can basically provide public relations for just about any kind of organization.
Can you give the viewers a sense, without even getting into any clients in particular, but what exactly a client would hire a public relations, someone to do for them?
Well, I think from our perspective, what we do is media relations. So a client would come to us to try to get what's called free publicity. Basically, working with us to get their story told through the filter of the media. Mm-hmm. And what we do is we work with them to define their strategic objectives and then to package that message, and then we serve as the conduit for communicating the message to the media.
That's great. How has your work at LHWH over the last 13 years and being here in Myrtle Beach differed from your previous public relations experience in D.C. or anywhere else?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the media here are friendlier. They're more open to listening to the case of that we're trying to make. I think also that up in Washington there's a tendency to pigeonhole you into, say, if you were golf, you wouldn't be able to really represent anybody in any other functional area. But here there are opportunities to do that, and so we've been honored to really represent a multiplicity of clients and to help them get their stories told through the media.
Yes. How do you think the addition of the Silver Reed Gallery has benefited the family here at LHWH?
I think that's wonderful. It's been so great because it's enabled a lot of us who work with the folks in the art department to appreciate them for what they do outside of their formal work here. They're truly gifted people, and it's been great to see. And as somebody who can't draw, can't paint, can't do any of that, it's wonderful to see how talented those folks are. You know, family's an overused word in the business world, but we really do have a family here, and this allows us to appreciate those parts of our family in a different way.
And when you describe the relationships within LHWH, obviously using a word like family is one of them. Are there other ways to describe relationships within the agency? And obviously, how is the relationship with Sherry R. Press? Just this entire, I think Andy or someone talked about earlier in the week, a 24,000 square foot building here.
Well, this whole building is, there's 2 ways to describe this building. I think a friend of mine used to say that there's so much energy in the building, he didn't know how the roof stayed on it. And that's true. There's a lot of creativity in Sherry R and LHWH all around. There's also a true team spirit here. People care about the individuals, and I think that's something that's come from the leadership at the top. The partners have set the tone for a warm and welcoming place, and that's why, as I said earlier, I'm here to stay.
That's great. Lee, what do you like best about the work you do for clients as well as the work you do within the agency?
I love working with clients. I like learning about their businesses. I like helping them to figure out a way to communicate their messages and set their objectives. What I love about working in the agency is every night before I leave, people will ask me, what are you working on? because I could be here till 7, but if we work on it together, we're only here till 6. And that's a pretty amazing extension of generosity on the part of everybody that works here. Yeah. We are truly a team, so that's why I love it.
That's great. And speaking of teams, I hate to go. I want to go back to this. When you think about your lobbying experience representing local governments, any memorable stories that really stick out in your head? You said representing cities as large as New Orleans and as small as I can't remember what, but any memorable experiences that really stick out, Lee?
Well, I could tell you some really funny stories, mostly on me, but I won't. But I will tell you that some of the most exciting things that occurred for me during the tenure that I was in Washington was getting a chance to be with President Carter. He was the first president that I was a lobbyist under, basically, and working on the Rural Development Act and getting some recognition from him for that, which was very wonderful. I was honored for that. And then the second most exciting thing I think that ever happened to me was being with Barbara Bush on the literacy project that we worked on together. So.
Lee, if someone asked you to summarize your work ethic, how do you think you'd do that?
Oh, that's a hard question. If you need it done, I'll help you do it. I can do it.
That's great. We're sitting with a woman who said, if you need it done, I can help you do it, who recognizes through all the time spent, 13 years here at LHWH or within the Myrtle Beach community, to think about being in a position where they're going to have to carry her out to get her out, representing clients and others. Lee, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank LHWH Advertising and PR for helping make the Silver Reed Gallery and today's Carolina People such a great success.